So, have you ever had like one of those mornings where the alarm is just blaring and you drag yourself out of bed and you just stop and look at the ceiling thinking like, is this it?
Oh, yeah. The classic morning existential crisis.
Right. You know the exact feeling I'm talking about. You get up, you commute, you do your work, you eat, sleep, and then you just wake up and do it all over again.
Like you're stuck on a loop.
Exactly. It's that sneaking, hollow suspicion that you might just be going through the motions. Like, are you actually living your life deliberately, or are you just sort of, I don't know, drifting along with the herd?
It is a remarkably heavy philosophical question to start the day with.
It is, yeah. But it's exactly the question we're tackling today.
Because it's the ultimate existential speed bump, really.
Hmm.
That moment you realize the script you've been reading from might not even be your own. And the source text we're using to navigate that realization today is just absolutely fascinating.
It really is. Today, we are taking a deep dive into a translated essay from 2011. It's by an author named Shufeng, and the essay is titled Examining Whether You Belong to the Masses.
Which is quite the title.
Yeah, it sets a tone right away. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this author's highly specific and, slightly provocative roadmap of human consciousness.
Hmm.
We're going to explore exactly how this text defines ignorance, what it means to truly awaken, and how it frames the ultimate purpose of life.
But before we jump into the deep end, we definitely need to establish a very clear baseline for you, the listener, because this text makes some incredibly strong spiritual, philosophical, and metaphysical claims.
Very strong
Yeah,
claims.
it pulls heavily from, or at least it heavily references, foundational concepts that you'd find in Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and Taoism.
So we want to make it crystal clear right up front. We are not endorsing these
No,
viewpoints.
not at all.
We aren't trying to convert you to any specific philosophy or validate one religious perspective over another. Our role here is purely to be your guides through this specific document.
We're just impartially reporting on the ideas.
Right. We're impartially reporting on the material to help you understand the author's unique framework. We are essentially tourists in this ideological landscape today.
We are just mapping the territory exactly as the author drew it. And the way the author begins drawing that map is by trying to define a term that gets thrown around quite a bit in ancient spiritual texts, the masses.
Right, because to figure out if we are just sleepwalking through life, we first need a definition of what it means to be a sleepwalker.
Exactly.
The text starts with a foundational concept from the Buddha, which is this idea of saving all sentient beings. And then
Mhm.
the author asks a very practical, logistical question, like, who exactly makes up this collective group known as the masses?
Who are the people that supposedly need saving?
Right, exactly. It's a question of categorization. Who is actually in the herd?
Okay, let's unpack this because the author provides a checklist.
Oh man, the checklist.
Yeah, it is an 8-point cosmic checklist to determine if you belong to the masses. And the contrast in this list is completely wild.
It really is.
On one hand, you have very standard moral and emotional failings. Like point 6 is about harboring greed, anger, jealousy, complaining, and hating.
Which makes sense.
Right. Point 7 is being selfish and lacking a heart of gratitude. Point 5 is being poor in spirit and mind.
Which is familiar territory. Almost every philosophy or religion on earth establishes those universal ethical baselines. Don't be greedy, cultivate gratitude, treat others well.
But then, completely intertwined with those standard ethical guidelines, you have these deeply metaphysical, almost sci-fi criteria.
Yeah, this is where it gets crazy.
Point 2 is not knowing the cycle of reincarnation and its principles. Point 3, and this one absolutely stopped me in my tracks, is not knowing the existence of the antimatter world.
Wait, the antimatter world.
Yes, literally the antimatter world. And then point 8 is not having Buddha or God in your heart. Point 1 is not knowing where you came from or where you were going.
It's such a jarring list. Let's also look at point 4 because it says you're in the masses if you are not clear about who your parents, children, and other important people truly are to you.
Right. In the context of reincarnation, the author implies you need to understand your multi-life cosmic connections to your family, not just your biological ties.
It's like going in for a routine medical checkup. The doctor takes your blood pressure, checks your cholesterol, tells you to eat less sodium, and then suddenly shines a penlight in your eyes and asks, by the way, have you balanced your interdimensional chakras and reconciled your relationship with the antimatter universe?
Yeah, it's a massive leap in criteria.
You go from don't be jealous to understand quantum metaphysics in one breath.
What's fascinating here is how the author equates spiritual poverty with a literal lack of existential direction. The text is making a very bold mechanical claim about how reality operates.
Oh,
Well, spiritual ignorance isn't just about being a bit selfish or having a bad temper. It's about fundamentally misunderstanding the physics of reality.
I really struggle to see the connection there, honestly. Like, why does the author care if I understand antimatter? How does that relate to being a good person?
So in this framework, morality and cosmic physics aren't separate categories at all. Think about it this way. Greed, anger, and selfishness are heavy, dense emotions that bind you entirely to the material world.
Like the physical matter you can see and touch.
Exactly. Reincarnation and the antimatter world represent the larger, unseen ecosystem of energy. The author is suggesting that if you don't understand the unseen mechanics of the universe, you will inevitably cling to the seen material world.
Oh, I see. And clinging to the material world is what causes the greed and jealousy.
Right. Ignorance of one causes the failure of the other.
Wow. So the grading scale isn't just about being nice, it's about full cosmic comprehension. And the text says that if you possess even one of these 8 traits, you belong to the masses. Just one.
Just one.
You could be the most generous, anger-free person on Earth, but if you don't fully grasp the mechanics of the antimatter world, well, you fail the test.
The author says possessing even one trait means you're living in a state of ambiguity and confusion. You're stumbling around in the dark, you don't actually know where you came from, and you have no idea where you were going.
So if you are listening to this and you just mentally ticked even one of those boxes, which, let's be real, applies to virtually all of us,
Oh, definitely all of us.
the natural assumption is that the author is harshly judging you. You failed the cosmic test, so you're part of the ignorant masses. But the text takes a completely unexpected pivot right here.
It entirely subverts the traditional narrative of spiritual texts. Usually the masses are explicitly scolded or pitied.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The author actually argues that belonging to the masses is not necessarily a bad thing.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he uses this incredibly blunt, highly grounded analogy. He says that living as part of the masses can be like being a pig in a pig farm.
A pig farm.
Now, he doesn't mean this as an insult. He paints it as a strangely peaceful, closed-loop existence. You live simply. You laugh when it's time to laugh. You cry when it's time to cry. You endure some suffering, but you also enjoy comfort. And eventually, when your time is up and you die, you might just think, all's well.
The phrase used in the translation is living simply and practically. You are completely indifferent to past lives. You don't care about future lives. You are utterly unburdened by the heavy mechanics of cause and effect.
I have to ask you, though, when I read that description, it doesn't sound like a punishment to me.
It really doesn't.
Honestly, there is a profound relief in just focusing on the day-to-day. Paying your bills, laughing with your friends, eating a good meal, and ignoring the heavy, crushing burden of your ultimate cosmic purpose.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see the author acknowledging a deeply universal truth about the human condition. Ignorance truly can be bliss.
Yeah, absolutely.
By defending the pig farm, the author is validating a practical earthly life. A life unbothered by the metaphysical mechanics of the universe is pleasant. It operates on biological imperatives: finding food, finding shelter, finding companionship.
Right, it's just survival.
And it is entirely valid within its own limited scope.
It's like being on a cruise ship and just enjoying the buffet in the pool. You never need to go down into the sweltering engine room to understand how the pistons fire or how the navigation system plots the coordinates using celestial bodies. You are just enjoying the ride.
That analogy actually highlights the core problem the author raises, though.
What's that?
Well, a cruise ship is great, but what happens when the ship reaches the end of the ocean? Or,
Yep.
when it runs out of fuel?
Right. If the pig farm of blissful ignorance is so comfortable, and the author actively admits it's comfortable, why should anyone bother trying to leave it? Why voluntarily go down into the engine room?
Because the text outlines one massive, inescapable downside to being in the masses. And that is the absolute absence of a true future.
Wait, what does that actually mean mechanically? Because people in the masses clearly have futures. We plan for retirement, we set career goals, we plan vacations for next year.
Sure, but that is the earthly timeline, which is finite. The text defines future as the road that lies beyond earthly life.
Okay, so the afterlife.
Essentially, yeah. The author challenges the reader, saying, if you doubt this, ask yourself, where is my future? When the biological body fails, where does your consciousness go? In this framework, if you are in the masses, You have no agency over what happens next.
Because you never bother to learn how the navigation system works.
Precisely. You become cosmic driftwood. You might dissipate entirely, or you might be blindly recycled into the system without memory or progression.
Wow, that's dark.
Yeah, you have no true future because you have no control over your spiritual trajectory. So to secure that future, the text says you must transition out of the masses. You must awaken.
And awakening is not just some vague feeling of inner peace, right? The text defines it as a highly specific, rigorous cognitive process. Awakening means perceiving life's phenomena through your senses and actually grasping their true nature.
Right.
The text lists 6 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and the 6th one is intuition, or like a spiritual sense.
It requires an active synthesis of perception and profound comprehension. You can't just passively look at a tree. You have to actively decode it. You have to understand the origin, the time, the space, and the specific life force that allows that tree to exist in front of you.
I mean, how does intuition work as a sense in that process, though?
In the author's roadmap, intuition is the mechanism that perceives what the biological senses cannot. Just as your eyes detect light waves, your intuition detects the underlying principles, the antimatter or the unseen energy we discussed earlier.
Right.
Awakening means all 6 senses are firing simultaneously, decoding both the physical and the metaphysical world in real time.
Which sounds absolutely exhausting. And to be fair, the author admits that. He points out that awakening on your own is incredibly difficult because you aren't just decoding a tree.
No, it's way bigger than that.
The text says you have to understand a vast, interconnected system. The origins of the universe, time, space, life, consciousness, human existence, emotions, love, and desires.
It is the ultimate curriculum. You are being asked to solve the equation of existence.
I was trying to visualize what the author is demanding here,
Yeah.
and it feels like trying to build a functioning interstellar spaceship from scratch while you are actively running on a treadmill.
That's a great way to put it.
Because life is just too short. We're so busy trying to secure food, clothing, shelter, and just survive the grueling cycle of aging, sickness, and death. By the end of the day, you're tired. You have zero energy left to study the cosmic origins of human consciousness.
Exactly.
The treadmill of daily survival basically makes building the spaceship impossible.
Which raises an important question, and it's really the central tension of the entire essay. If the system of earthly life is rigged so that our daily survival actively prevents us from achieving spiritual awakening, how can anyone possibly escape the masses?
Right.
If the homework is mathematically too dense and there's simply no time to do it, is everyone just doomed to the pig farm?
So what does this all mean? How does the author resolve this impossible trap? Because doing the existential homework yourself is nearly impossible due to those demands of daily survival. The author steps in and offers what are essentially spiritual cheat codes.
Cheat codes.
Yeah, the text provides 2 fast-track solutions, shortcuts to securing a true future.
Okay, let's hear them.
Option 1, simply listen to and integrate the teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha Shakyamuni, the sage Laozi, and the prophet Muhammad. The text claims that if you can synthesize the teachings of these gods, Buddhas, celestial beings, and saints, you will certainly awaken.
I wouldn't exactly call that a shortcut.
Yeah.
Synthesizing the core truths of Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, and Islam isn't just reading a few books.
No, not at all.
You're talking about finding the absolute mathematical common denominator between Christian salvation, Buddhist emptiness, Taoist flow, and Islamic submission.
It's like asking someone to formulate a unified field theory of global spirituality over the weekend. It is an enormous intellectual undertaking. It's like saying, oh, you don't have time to build a spaceship. Just memorize the entire global archive of astrophysics and quantum mechanics. Simple.
Right. It's theoretically possible, but practically impossible for the person running on the treadmill.
And the author seems to realize that even this first shortcut is way too much for normal people. Which brings us to option 2. The even simpler way.
The real shortcut.
The author says, if you lack the time and energy for all that, just enter Lifechanyuan and follow the path laid out by its guide. Now, Lifechanyuan is the specific spiritual community founded by this author.
Okay, so the essay ultimately funnels down into a direct pitch for his own proprietary framework.
It totally does. But there is a highly entertaining moment of self-awareness in the text right here. The author actually admits that recommending his own group's guide sounds incredibly suspicious. He uses a Chinese idiom, saying it has a suspicion of Wang Ha selling melons.
Oh, that is a great cultural reference.
Yeah, what does it mean?
Wang Po selling melons refers to someone who is shamelessly boasting about their own goods. Wang Po sells melons and constantly shouts to anyone who will listen about how sweet and perfect her melons are. The author is essentially saying, I know I'm biased here, and I know this sounds like a sales pitch, but my product actually works.
I love that he doesn't shy away from how convenient it sounds, but he doesn't ask you to take his word for it on blind faith. This is where the text offers a verification method, and it is entirely based on empirical personal experience.
Yes, the author proposes a highly sensory test to determine if the guide of Lifechanyuan, or, presumably any spiritual guide you encounter, is genuine. He tells you to literally taste the guidance.
The text says that you, the individual, must test the guide through your own experience. If you paste the guidance and it feels sour, bitter, or astringent, the text is incredibly blunt. It says if it tastes sour, bitter, or astringent, it proves the guide is a fraud and a jerk, and you should just kick him away.
Just kick him away. But think about why the author uses those specific flavor profiles.
Like, biologically.
Yeah, think about the evolutionary biology of taste. In nature, sourness often signals unripeness or decay. Bitterness is a universal biological warning sign for poison. Astringency means something isn't ready to be consumed. The author is using our oldest, most primal biological defense mechanisms as a metaphor for spiritual intuition.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think of it that way. And on the flip side, the text says if you taste the guidance and it feels spicy, sweet, or fragrant, it proves the guide is an enlightened master.
Because sweet and spicy signal dense caloric energy, warmth, and nourishment. They are life-affirming sensations.
If you find a guide whose teachings feel sweet or fragrant, you're instructed to follow closely and never let go. I really want to highlight what this taste test is doing, because often spiritual enlightenment is framed as this lofty, abstract, highly intellectual pursuit, like it's happening up in the clouds.
Right, totally detached from normal life.
But this author takes the highest possible stakes. Your eternal cosmic future, escaping the masses, understanding the universe, and reduces the verification process to a visceral sensory reaction.
It bypasses the intellect completely. It
Yeah.
trusts the body's innate wisdom. You don't need a PhD in theology to know if a teaching is poisoning you or nourishing you.
Yeah.
You just have to trust the taste it leaves in your spirit.
It grounds the infinite cosmos right onto your tongue.
Exactly. It democratizes the pursuit of truth. Even if you are exhausted from the treadmill of daily survival, you still possess the exact equipment needed to test the truth, your own senses.
What an incredible journey this text takes us on. Let's briefly recap the ground we've covered in this deep dive. We started with that bizarre, whiplash-inducing 8-point checklist of the masses where, forgetting to say thank you sits right next to failing to understand the mechanics of the antimatter world.
The ultimate metaphysical checkup.
Right. From there, we looked at the unexpected defense of the pig farm, the surprisingly gentle validation of living a life of blissful ignorance, operating on purely biological imperatives. But then we confronted the cost of that comfort, the loss of a true future, and the surrender of our cosmic agency.
Which brought us to the overwhelming burden of trying to awaken on our own by decoding the universe with our six senses, all while dealing with demands of daily survival.
And finally, we landed on the fast-track solutions, ending with that brilliant, visceral, sensory taste test to find an enlightened guide, kicking away the bitter and holding on to the sweet. As we wrap up, we want to reiterate what we said at the start.
Yeah, this is important.
This deep dive was an impartial look into one author's very specific, very bold spiritual framework. Our goal was to unpack the mechanisms of these concepts for you, not to endorse the path. We're just holding the map up to the light.
But even as impartial observers, there are always elements of these frameworks that can be extracted and applied as thought experiments in our own daily routines.
Absolutely.
The author suggests using our most basic instinctual senses, like taste and smell, to evaluate grand spiritual truths. But what if we applied that exact same visceral sensory test to our modern earthly lives?
I love that idea.
Think about the sheer volume of information we are constantly consuming. The next time you consume a piece of breaking news, or scroll through a social media feed, or listen to advice from a lifestyle influencer, stop and pay attention to the taste it leaves behind in your mind and your body.
That is so powerful.
Does it leave you feeling energized and clear, like something spicy or sweet? Or does it leave you feeling anxious, cynical, or drained? If your daily consumption leaves you feeling sour, bitter, or astringent, maybe it is time to treat that information like the fraudulent guide in the text. Trust your senses, protect your peace, and just kick it away.